was 13 years old at the time. Me and my friend Mason and my cousin Oliver were riding our bikes when we came across an abandoned house located 4 blocks from my place. Oliver has always been a bit of a daredevil, so I wasn't surprised to see him jump over the short fence and disappear behind the abandoned house. Frustrated and annoyed, we decided to run after him. We couldn't find him in the backyard, so we assumed he had broken into the house. We were confused because everything seemed to be sealed and shut, so we started yelling out his name. "I'm down here," he responded. It sounded like he was beneath the house. Mason finally spotted a basement window. We quickly crawled inside to see Oliver sneaking up the basement stairs. We hurried up behind him. There were a couple of old and dusty picture frames attached on a wall next to the basement stairs. We noticed that all the frames were of a man who looked like he was in his 40s when the pictures were taken. Then there was just one, of a really old man that looked like it was taken recently, most probably 5 or 10 years ago. Anyway, we opened the basement door to enter a downstairs passage that was connected to the living room and the kitchen. The passage was filled with old rocking chairs, piled up together on the right. We continued to walk towards the main door as we saw the stairs leading to the top floor. We were walking up the stairs when we heard what sounded like an old rocking chair squeaking. We all stared at one another, utterly flabbergasted, before hearing the squeak stop. We all stood in silence before whatever or whoever was up there started whistling. The whistling eventually stopped, but was followed by a heavy set of footsteps that sounded like were coming towards our direction. We decided to sneak back out of the house before we heard footsteps charging towards our direction. We bolted out of there, screaming and crying out for help, eventually hopping on our bikes and riding home. We never disclosed this with our parents, but we later found out that an old man recently lived there. It said that his body was discovered 4 years ago, after his son, who lives in a different state, had called the cops to go and check on him after he hadn't heard from him in days. His body was found in his bedroom, sitting on his rocking chair. I'm now 30 years old, and I still get chills thinking about that afternoon, wondering if it was the old man's spirit that we had encountered on that day, or just a homeless man living there. There used to be an old abandoned school in town, just near my house. It was heavily boarded up and super hard to get into. Well, a friend and I managed to get inside by climbing up the side of the school via a pipe and slipping through a window on the roof. We explored the basement, which was flooded. It was kind of creepy seeing stairs disappear into water. We had just left the gym when we heard the footsteps coming from the doors on the other side of the gym. Scary, especially considering it sounded like it was one person, not another group of explorers like us, and blocking our exit up to the roof. The only way out was otherwise behind us through boarded up doors. They sounded like someone who was walking around and stopping periodically. There was no light coming from that direction, and we couldn't fathom why someone would come into a creepy place like this alone. We waited for the footsteps to stop, then snuck across the gym, peered down the hallways, saw no one, and continued towards the stairs, which would lead us back to the roof. Halfway down the hall, we hear someone sprinting behind us, probably 50 meters away or so, down a typical high school hallway. Now it is mostly dark in there. We didn't see anything behind us as we quickly ran up the stairs. We didn't stop until we got up to the 4th floor. We listened for noise. Nothing. Hopped out the window and climbed back down the pipe. I remember getting home and actually laughing about it, but now that I think about it, I feel like we might have dodged a situation that could have ended badly. There's an abandoned insane asylum in Northville, Michigan, that my friends and I explored 3 times. This is the story of the 3rd and the final time we ever broke in. I still get chills every time I remember this night. The first 2 times we went, the asylum was actually more interesting than creepy to explore. Both times, we happened to run into very friendly people. It's an entire complex, complete with underground tunnels, morgue, and lots of files and things from the 50s. This time, however, we were alone and only had 2 flashlights between 3 people. much like the guy with the story about the World War I base. The echoing footsteps sound like they're coming from behind you and always seem to take one more step after you stop. So after exploring much of the asylum like this, and being considerably creeped out already, we decide to head to the main building. It's about 18 stories tall, and the view from the top is pretty cool, because it's by far the tallest building anywhere remotely close, and you can see Detroit from there. Anyway, we're nearing the top of the seemingly endless stair corridor, when the girl that's with us freezes, and whispers for us to stop. "I heard footsteps," she whispers. I tried to tell her it was just our footsteps echoing, but when both of them made me shut up and listen, I could hear it as clear as day. The unmistakable sound of footsteps coming from the top floor. Now the building is tall, but very small area-wise, so we were close to the sounds. Still standing on the stairs, we whisper amongst us about what we're going to do. My very stupid friend insists that it's probably another friendly person and we should go up and say hi. I try to explain to him that you don't want to meet the kind of people that pace the top floor of an old asylum in the middle of the night. We couldn't convince him, so he continued to head up the stairs, but I was like, fuck this, and just started running down the stairs. Fortunately, he followed us, and we got out of there without ever finding out who or what was walking around up there that night. To top it off, a cop passing by on the road spotted us coming out of the building, and we had to run into the asylum complex to get away. I still think back to that night sometimes, and wonder who was up there. There were definitely no guards, so it was probably either a gang, or the tortured soul of a crazy person. Either way, that was way too close.